All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating story from deep inside the AI boom. But we're not talking about the usual big names you hear about all the time. Nope. This is about an underdog company that's making a huge, high-stakes bet on becoming a key piece of the entire AI puzzle. Let's get into it.
So, when you think about AI, what comes to mind? Probably super powerful computer chips, right? Complex code? But what about the actual physical stuff that makes it all work? What's the hidden engine that's actually powering this whole revolution?
Well, it turns out it's not just about the processing power. It's about moving unbelievable amounts of data and moving it at the speed of light. Every single thing you do with AI, every search, every image it creates, all that information has to travel. And that's where the real magic happens. And this little device is the hero of that story, the optical transceiver. You can think of it like a translator. It takes the electrical language of a computer, turns it into pulses of light to shoot through fiber optic cables, and then translates it back again on the other side. Honestly, without these little guys, the AI data superhighway would have a massive traffic jam. The whole thing would just grind to a halt. And that brings us to the main character of our story today, a company called Applied Optoelectronics, or just AAOI. If you think of the AI boom as a new gold rush, well, AAOI isn't digging for gold. They're making the shovels and pickaxes that every single miner needs to even get started.
So, who are these guys? Well, they've actually been around for a while, since 1997, based out of Texas. Their entire business is building these super fast transceivers. And right now, the whole industry is shifting from 400G technology to the next big thing, 800G, which is what these massive new AI data centers are demanding. And AOI thinks its secret sauce, this highly automated and cost-efficient way of making things, is going to let them absolutely dominate this new market.
And it looks like that huge bet might just be starting to pay off, because the company is at this really dramatic turning point. This isn't just a story about steady growth. No, this is a story about a massive, massive financial turnaround, going from losing tons of money to potentially breaking out into serious profitability.
So, just how big of a deal is this? Well, the analyst report we're looking at is projecting a mind-blowing 81.93% revenue growth next year. Yeah, you heard that right. That is not a typo. That's the kind of number that screams something fundamental is changing for a company.
And when you see it as a chart, it really hits you. I mean, it's one thing to hear 82%, but look at this. They're projected to jump from about $250 million in revenue to nearly $500 million in just 1 year. That's not just growth. That's a rocket launch.
So what lit the fuse on this rocket? Well, it was a huge win late last year. They landed their first massive order for those next-gen 800G transceivers from what the report calls a major hyperscaler. So think of one of the giants, an Amazon, a Google, a Microsoft, one of the companies building these city-sized AI data centers. This was the moment. This was the validation they had been working towards for years.
But here's the real story, the bottom line. Because all that revenue is great, but it doesn't mean anything if you're not actually making money. In 2024, the company lost over $186 million. But by 2026, analysts think it could swing all the way to a profit of $150 million. I mean, that's a more than $300 million turnaround. In 2 years, it's just wild.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? A turnaround that fast, that big, it doesn't happen without some serious risk. The company is basically walking a high wire right now. So let's flip the coin over and look at the major challenges they're up against.
First off, there are what we call execution risks. It's one thing to get a giant order, but can you actually deliver? Can they make these super advanced 800G products in huge quantities without delays or quality problems? They're building a massive new factory to do it. Is that going to get built on time? And we all know how fragile global supply chains can be. One little hiccup could cause huge problems. Then there's all the stuff they just can't control, the market risks. What happens if the big tech giants suddenly decide to slow down their spending on AI? And what about competition? As more players jump into the 800G market, that could start a price war. And you always have to watch out for new technology, like silicon photonics, that could suddenly make their products look old or too expensive. And maybe the scariest risk of all is their customers. Landing that one huge client was a game changer, but it also means a huge chunk of their money is coming from just a handful of these giant companies. They're putting a lot of their eggs in one basket. If just one of those big customers decides to change its plans, it would hit AOI's finances hard. So you've got this incredible opportunity on one hand and this terrifying wall of risk on the other.
How do you even begin to figure out what could happen? Well, the analysts broke it down into 3 possible futures: the best case, or bull scenario, the most likely, or base scenario, and the worst case, the bear scenario.
And this chart just lays it all out so clearly. In the bull case, everything goes right. The 800G rollout is a massive hit, and the stock could soar to 50 or 60 bucks. In the base case, things go pretty well. Just a steady, solid rollout, and the price target is more like 35 to 45. But in the bear case, production gets delayed, the company struggles to make a profit, and the stock could fall all the way down to the low 20s. The gap between success and failure here is just enormous.
So after weighing all of that, the huge potential and the very real risks, what's the final verdict from this analysis? What's the takeaway?
Well, the core idea, the whole reason we're talking about AAOI boils down to this. They are in the perfect spot to catch the massive wave of AI spending. They're at that critical inflection point, turning from loss to profit. That 800G contract was a game-changing win, and as they make more and more of them, their costs should go down and their profits should go up. And so, the final call from the Manus AI report is a buy rating. But, and you really have to hear this part, it comes with a huge warning label attached for investors with a high tolerance for risk. This is not a safe, quiet investment. It is a high-stakes, high-wire act.
And really, that's the question that hangs over this whole story. Applied Optoelectronics has pushed all its chips into the middle of the table. They are betting their entire future on being one of the engines that powers AI. So the big question is, will this be a story of incredible breakthrough success, or a cautionary tale about what happens when you take a huge risk and it doesn't pay off?